5 audio channels. That was what Yuka Tsujiyoko had to work with when she sat down to compose the soundtrack for Fire Emblem. What she couldn't possibly know was that she was about to lay the foundation for over 3 decades of music to come. Born and raised in Uji, Japan, Yuka Tsujiyoko developed a connection with music from a young age. She took piano lessons in preschool and composed her first song in high school for a class assignment. However, instead of pursuing music as a career, Tsujiyoko-san went to college for electrical engineering in nearby Osaka, graduated, and eventually entered the workforce as a programmer at a software company. But her love for music never died. Throughout her college years and even after she had gotten a job, Tsujiyoko-san continued to play keyboard, got hooked on Pat Metheny, and even was a member of a progressive rock band. Then, one day, a former colleague told her about an opening at a game studio called Intelligent Systems. Originally a programming unit that developed tools for other Nintendo games, Intelligent Systems had recently started creating its own projects, and was in dire need of a composer for its new RPG, Fire Emblem. Sensing an opportunity to demonstrate her skill, Tsujiyoko-san came to the interview equipped with her greatest asset, her keyboard. Seeing a nearby action game on screen, she improvised the sound and music for it on the spot, impressing her interviewer, Toshiyuki Nakamura, who, what do you know, would eventually become president of Intelligent Systems. Needless to say, Tsujiyoko-san got the job. There was only one problem. She had no experience making music for the Famicom, or any other game console for that matter. So Intelligent Systems called in reinforcements. Enter Hirokazu Tanaka. Even if you don't know who Hirokazu Tanaka is, you've heard his music. How do I know this? Well, he made this. And this. And this. In short, Tsujiyoko-san couldn't have asked for a better guide to the Famicom's audio capabilities. So let's do a brief crash course and learn for ourselves what Tsujiyoko-san had to work with when composing Fire Emblem. I mentioned before that the Famicom had 5 audio channels, but let's break that down further. To start, we have 2 pulse wave channels. When you jam to the classic Famicom beep and boop melodies, that's most likely the pulse channels you're hearing. We then have the triangle wave channel. Triangle waves produce a much smoother sound and often take on the role of bass in many 8-bit tracks. After the triangle channel is the noise channel, which, well, produces noise. This channel is often used to mimic percussion. And to cap it off, we have the sample channel. The sample channel can play recorded samples, albeit super short and hyper-compressed samples, but samples nonetheless. And that's it. That's all that composers had to work with on the Famicom. So let's put all this knowledge to use and take a look at one of the first pieces of music Tsujiyoko-san composed for Fire Emblem, the main theme. In the sample channel, we have a drum and snare to set the beat. Add in the noise channel, and we get a pitter-patter for additional percussion to set the rhythm. Layer on the triangle channel, and and we get a smooth bass line. And with that, the pulse channels enter and punch home that sweet, sweet melody. And voila, Fire Emblem theme. But how did Tsujiyoko-san come up with the theme? Well, she improvised it. No grueling creative process, no story of hardship, the song just came naturally. But Tsujiyoko-san did have her influences. Breaking from her prog rock roots, Tsujiyoko-san took inspiration from pop rhythms and the chart toppers of the time, specifically the idol duo Wink, who had multiple #1 singles in 1989, including Lonely Tropical Fish and a Japanese cover of Boys Don't Cry. Ultimately, Tsujiyoko-san wanted to create something familiar and easy to listen to that would sit well with the entire team. She didn't even listen to pop music herself, but she took this approach with the majority of Fire Emblem's soundtrack, and the results speak for themselves. I think it's worth highlighting that Fire Emblem was Tsujiyoko-san's professional debut. She had never worked with video game hardware before, and it took lots of trial and error to find the sounds she wanted. But once she did, she nailed it. Hirokazu Tanaka's mentorship and know-how certainly helped, but ultimately the compositions were all Tsujiyoko-san's, and through her music, she laid the groundwork for 30 years of musical history to come. Tsujiyoko-san went on to compose the music for Gaiden, Mister of the Emblem, Genealogy of the Holy War, Thracia 776, and Binding Blade, all by herself. To this day, she still works on Fire Emblem as a sound supervisor, and it is no exaggeration to say that Yuka Tsujiyoko created Fire Emblem's musical identity as we know it. In our heads, we often like to think of the things we enjoy as products of pure passion. That great art requires great sacrifice, and often that's true. But sometimes, things just happen as if it's the only way it could have happened. Tsujiyoko-san had no deep love for the game she was working on or the pop music she referenced. She was a programmer prog rock keyboardist looking to impress her new coworkers. And then bam, Fire Emblem theme. But funnily enough, despite composing the damn thing and still working on Fire Emblem to this day, Tsujiyoko-san has wanted the main theme changed for years. Rather than it be played just because it's the Fire Emblem theme, she'd see the music evolve with the games alongside the new blood that comes in to make them. But no one, not even that new blood itself, can quite let it go. It's a song that's too sticky for its own good. You play that melody for a fan, and all of a sudden they're on their Game Boy Advance in the back of the car, in front of a dusty CRT with a GameCube controller, and hunched over their 3DS on the couch. It's a song as iconic as it is nostalgic. And if that's not a legacy, I don't know what is. Thanks for watching.